So I guess that we're all tired about hearing about AI, and we're going to go back in time and talk about IoT. I'll try to put a little bit of a positive spin on it and talk about what I think is the hype and what is the reality as far as I see it. I've already been presented, but I'm CTO of Nordic Semiconductor. Been working with that company for many, many years, also in sales and development roles. And most of the time, what I like the most is actually meet customers. And I hope some of the stories I'm going to be telling later today is based upon the customers we talk to and what we're seeing out in the market. So for those who don't know Nordic Semiconductor, we're a fabulous semiconductor company up in Northern Europe. I used to say a small semiconductor company, but I like to say medium semiconductor company now. We're market leader in Bluetooth Low Energy. We do really well. And we ship our products across the world to customers who makes all kinds of crazy stuff. And one thing I've learned in the industry in the last 10 years is trying to predict what the customer wants tomorrow is impossible. Because the product we're selling our chips into today in high volumes, we didn't even know about 5 years ago. We've also done a lot of work in the last year to develop a cellular IoT product line, where instead of connecting, as you would do with Bluetooth Low Energy, to your mobile phone, you connect it directly to a base station. And there's some great opportunities for that as well. I mentioned briefly worldwide footprint. We actually do a lot of business in China with domestic Chinese customers as well. But as already been said, the business we're in is 100% global. You can't develop a product unless it is a global footprint, and you can't source locally. You got to source where the best sources are. So that's how we're set up as a company as well. So how about that Internet of Things? Well, I wanted to bring it into the same curve as was shown this earlier, this Gartner hype curve, because in the good old days, a few years ago, the IoT was the king of the hype curve. We're on top where AI is today. So it really crowned the king when I was here in 2015 and 16. It was the big deal. Now, the king is sort of dead. And we went into this sort of disillusionment phase. And I think there's many reasons to that, and I'll touch why that is. But when you overhype something, you will never get to the point without some disappointment. I think right now we're on that good growth path, and I'll show some market segments and some products where there's a lot of activity, but where the potential is by no means taken out yet. The analysts used to love IoT too, right? And crazily enough, when you talk to people about how many IoT sensors are going to be in 2020, some people said 200 billion. That was a politician I heard in Norway a while back. I don't think she understood what billion means, actually. But 200 billion was a big number. What have we got here? Someone predicted 30 millions. At some point, it was about throwing out the biggest possible number. And then when you do that, you may get disappointed. But it is big. And analysts have tried to do all kinds of way of segmenting. And back to my point is trying to predict what area, what segment, what vertical, doing what is terribly hard. So I don't look at these maps because I didn't think they make any sense. Sometimes you put it into this different segments of smart cities, industrial IoT. Yeah, what is that really? Connected health. What is so special about health? I think in some way we categorize this wrong, and we're not thinking about it in a way that am I going to achieve? What's the purpose of connected health? What is the purpose of smart utilities? We know that. That's to screw us for money, right? But what's the purpose? And that's what I like to think about when I come to my way of segmenting IoT. I think there is three, and there's more, of course, and you'll not find everything in here. But I think there's a couple of things. It's the simple one. Where is it, and how's it feeling? That's packages, whatever. Where is something? We call it asset tracking, some other thing, but it's about where is stuff. That's a super big segment, of which, in the end of the day, everything is connected. The second one is, how am I doing? Back to me, and actually, how can I improve? How can I become better? In all kinds of aspects. Which is also a huge market, and it touches upon all of us. And finally, I think it's this, how is things doing? Simple thing, how can I control it? The command and control aspects of things. An engine, all these things. I try to think about the IoT in these three segments, and when I do that, I find an awful lot of opportunity. And I'll show you examples of products that fits in these categories. Some are here now, some is coming tomorrow, some is using Nordic Semiconductor, some is not. This is all individual. But if you start with the first one, where is that stuff? We all want to know where stuff is. At the end of the day, we all know it too. If you're looking at what happens there right now, everyone want to track a shipping container. Yeah, that contains like $10,000 worth of product. You got to know where it is. Turns out, shipping guys don't necessarily know where the containers are either. So there's a big demand of tracking containers. But you knew that. They want to track pallets, smaller units. They want to know, oh, you have this milk box. Where is that again? Because if it stands outside too long, it's going to get stale. You got dumpsters. Did you know that people steal dumpsters and they repaint them and they call it the Johnson Company's dumpster instead? So I want to track dumpsters too. That's a very low-tech business in many ways. And turns out that that's a huge value. One of these things is like $5,000 to build. And you don't want to lose it. And most of these cases, they have like a paper ledger who's noted. It's now outside the home of someone. And, you know, some weeks later, they cannot figure out where it is. You know, seeing these city bikes that are everywhere. You see them here in Munich too. You got to know where they are. Well, if you're in China, you may not have to know where they are because they're everywhere. But here, if you want to figure out where the bike is, you got to know where it is. So you got to keep a track of it. Same with these scooters. Scooters, you got to know where they are because you're deployed. You got an app. You can say, I'm going to scoot down the street today. And funny story about that is, since it is in many places a problem that these scooters and bikes are being thrown into the ocean, you know, our local city council in Oslo says it shouldn't be taken close to water. Ah, really? So they're thinking about geofencing the waterfront now? I don't know. But you need to know where they are, because then you can do interesting things. You already have these tiny small trackers that you can put on everything. Your wallet, your backpack, and will alert you when you come out of range. It's a huge market already, tracking everything you have. You want to put them on your old folks so they don't accidentally walk out of the nursing home and not know where they are. You can geofence that property. It's a big deal for many to be able to do that. You want to put it on your dog, you know, the dog or whatever animal he has no running away. You want to put it on cons, right? Convicts who doesn't need to spend time in prison, they got to wear an ankle bracelet. You got to know where they are and they got to be in their home. And finally, you got to track those kids too, even in Europe. You got to know where the kid is, so you know something not happened to him. You may want to know that he's within a territory. You want to get an alarm saying, for some reason, little Johnny is now outside his normal territory, and an alarm will be sent. It's all over the map. Everyone want to track everything, from the big things to the small things. And they're using a wide range of technologies to do that. They're using Bluetooth, NFCs, you know, they're using GPS, they're using, of course, cellular technology. Every technology is being used to figure this out. That's a big deal. But one thing, and I don't know if you follow this, but every Christmas it's a big deal to follow where Santa is. And you know NORAD, those guys, they track missiles that are, you know, being shot out from Russia. They're supposed to intercept them before they arrive at the land somewhere else. And you may think like I'm thinking, how can they really track Santa? He's just a big mass of organic, right? There's the reindeers, there's organic mass, there's wood. There's no metal even. How do they track Santa? And you know what? They do it on the reindeer. They actually use the reindeer as a mechanism for tracking. And if you look at these cute here, right, I'll show you bigger. He has a tiny small tracker in the back of his ear with cellular connectivity. And by that, they can always know where the reindeer is. Okay, we can know where Santa's coming. Here's an example of a product that is only being enabled by groundbreaking technologies, new technologies in wireless technology. There is another purpose for it as well. Apart from Santa Claus, is that there are some bigger financial incentives if you actually know where the dead reindeer is versus just not knowing it. Then you get more money from the government if it's getting eaten by an eagle or if it's getting driven by a truck. There's a financial incentive. But today you want to track the animals too, down to livestock and everything else. So knowing where the stuff is a huge place for IoT. And it's knowing is one thing, and then we'll throw all these algorithms up and we'll know where it's supposed to go tomorrow before it even went there. That's where they're moving forward to. Second thing is, how can I improve? What about me? And what about me as a person? And how do I connect all these things up? Well, you may have seen, everyone wearing a fitness watch. Duh, right? We had done that for a long time. And, we're tracking how many steps we did and do better than yesterday. And we may be running and sharing a thing on Strava, and you're fit, you're biking. Everyone does that. It's all connected. It's a great thing. And most recently, it's sort of the fitness has been expanded into life-saving. And this fellow down here is a Norwegian guy, got a big newspaper. It says, Torolf, saved by Apple Watch. Turns out he fell down, whatever reason, and the watch automatically alerted the emergency service, and some minutes later they showed up in the door and hauled him away in an ambulance. Pretty sweet. Can you imagine how many people went in the store to buy Apple Watch the day after? Oh, a lot. Front page newspaper in Norway. So those things, it's about knowing how you're doing and how can I do better. Of course, one of my all-time favorite is, of course, continuous blood glucose. It happens more and more. They connect to your phone. They also connect to some cloud service. You can have the data downloaded to your doctor. You can have it sent alerts to your parents. It simply makes life better. A great IoT application that just keeps growing. Here's a new funny one I saw the other day. This tracks ovulation. And I don't know exactly how that works. I'm a guy, but apparently you can do that with this product. I'm not sure if it is to avoid or to I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a new product, and of course they data mine all that stuff and figure out that there's more fertile women in Finland than in Norway. Can do all that kind of great stuff, apart from the GDPR issues though. But nevertheless, these things get connected all the time. That's a big deal. Now, one thing I learned, and I was in America last week, and as much as AI is sort of the gold rush of China, marijuana is the gold rush in California, right? We got to build all this cool stuff. Everyone's going to smoke marijuana. And if you're looking at these vape pens, it's a big deal. They're becoming connected. And you got to ask yourself why. And I did that. So there's many reasons. One reason is, of course, because by putting a little patch somewhere on your brain, you can measure the brainwave and know exactly how much marijuana of what flavor you need to get a certain amount of buzz or whatever, tremor control or whatever. It's all super scientific. Now, if you're like getting older like me, a bottle of wine is going to get you buzzed and 2 bottles going to get you messed up, right? But apparently you can bring this down to science, and of course you will know exactly who done it. So those things are getting connected left and right. Now it turns out that marijuana is only legal in some states yet. So if you happen to step across the wrong border, be misbehaving, and not listening to what the policeman said, he may tase you. And of course the taser are internet connected as well now. Because after you shoot you and you're vibrating there, automatically the emergency vehicle will be called. No need to be worried anymore. Happens automatically. Again, using all kinds of technologies, all kinds of wireless technologies, and there's just so many things. So if you're thinking from a semiconductor point of view, there's just so many of these small things. And what do we say? No, small rivers make up a big one. This is pretty amazing. The last one is that how do I monitor and control my things or your things or whoever wants things? You can call it IoT, you can call it industrial IoT, you can call it whatever, but it sort of boils down to the same thing. You take a piece of machinery, maybe a big paper factory, slap a few sensors on it, and you measure what comes out of it. Yeah, of course, by having all this data connected to somewhere, you can first of all see, does the guys maintain it properly? Do they stop it in time to replace a critical part? Are they doing too much maintenance because the guys in the other factory is not doing as much? It's all these nice things. But from a semiconductor point of view, especially in my world, this is not paying our bills. These are just a few machines. It's just not big enough. So you really have to move into smaller piece of equipment. Same applies to escalators. You want to know when you can repair it. They all get connected. Maybe you can wired, whatever. That's happening. It's already happening. And by the time, this machine breaks down, the service guy is already on his way. Now, we've seen that on coffee makers too. And one strange thing is with, for instance, coffee makers. These coffee makers, most of them have Ethernet plugs in the back. You can actually connect them directly to internet already. Although, in most cases, they're not. But of course, if you have a barista, he may be the world's best to make, a cafe latte. but he didn't know nothing about if the machine breaks down. He can't repair it at all. He doesn't understand anything. Out goes the service calls, and some people claim that you can cut service calls in half just by having these machines connected. But for all kinds of reasons, it's taking a little bit of time, but they will also be connected. But more greatly is the home coffee makers, because you want to make sure that even if you're not home, you can program this machine to be ready when you get home. So your personal coffee makers are, of course, internet connected as well, and gives you all kinds of opportunities to do whatever. I figured out what we have at work is that we have coffee machines where, for some reason, engineers figured out to reprogram that display so we don't have any regular coffee anymore. We just have a whole bunch of engineering names. You got to figure out what the coffee is. But these machines are everywhere. Of course, the Frasil. You got to have internet-connected Frasil. If you got to have same thing, it's the if you got to have the lemon-flavored ice Frasil. Those things are straight onto cellular connectivity. The reason for that is, of course, they want to make sure that when this machine breaks down, that kid who operates them can maybe get some help over the phone and get it going again. It's a huge savings. So these are sort of examples of the bigger machines. But it is moving down to the personal level. Of course, if I had a big pool, I would have the pH measurement, so I could automatically, not even being home, see if the pool is doing all right. And if you have a big-ass house in America, I think that picture is from there, you will have a pool. And finally, sort of the biggest area, but also the most complicated area, is the smart home. It's the same thing you're doing there. You're measuring something, and you're telling it to turn a light off or on. You may be talking through the Alexa and so forth. And that's a segment that is growing, but it's a segment of my personal big disappointment is the fact that nothing ever works together. And we're 10 years down the track here now, and nothing still works together. Well, the Apple stuff doesn't work with the Amazon stuff, that doesn't work with the Google stuff, and there's like a million different wireless standards that control all of this stuff. You can't build your own simple smart home if you so much tried it, unless you pay some guy to be whatever, $20 subscription, and we don't want to do that. So here, although there's a lot of things coming out all the time, we read about it, still not picking up in a way that we would expect, and blame the big guys for not being able to work together on the scenario. So that was hopefully a few slides on where I think that the market has gone. The IoT is in its infancy still. We're still not at 200 billion sensors. But we do know for sure that absolutely everything is being connected right now. Thank you.